So I need to pace this video a little better. I'm back. I'm doing videos that I kind of want to do. I'm taking... What's the best way to put it? I'm reintegrating myself back into the channel right now. Because as I explained, as some of you may know, about 80-something of you may know, my mother passed away on Christmas last year, and I just had to take a break from the channel. But now that I'm back, I'm integrating myself with a couple standard videos, who would win, box office reviews, and death battle predictions, and just videos I feel like doing. This is one. I'm a big fan of Bleach, as some of you might know from some of the videos I've done. So, and like many of them, you wonder, who's the strongest captain? So this is the one we're doing. And I'm doing it in the sense that we're not using captains who we've not seen their full abilities. We're not using captains like Ukitake or Shinji or even Love or Rose, or Love, I should say, because we didn't see their Bankais. We're not using captains whose Bankais we've seen but don't know the full capabilities of. So we're not using Unohana, and we're not using Rose, because although we saw Rose's Bankai, we don't know what its full capability is. We're using captains before and after, alive or dead, who we generally have the full-on knowledge of. So with that said, how I did it was I pit them all against each other. I started with one captain, and I pinned him or her against in a fight against each and every other captain, seeing how their abilities stacked up, ranked them from wins, losses, and draws, and that's how I went on. So without further ado, let's start this. I'm a lot better off than I was in the last one. It took me up to 4 minutes before I actually started. But at number 13, we have Kensei, and I had the name up here this time, Kensei Murugama, or Muruguruma, Kensei, Squad 9's current captain. And let's be clear, none of these guys are weak, but as Blazing Azure Crow in his Bleach series used for the Bleach Bridge series, by the way, check it out, it's pretty entertaining. With a Kisuke joke against Chad, it's like, you ever heard of the Worf syndrome? It's when a character is really strong but keeps losing to prove a point of how powerful the opponent is. Why are we talking about Reggie? all right. I'll train you just for that. Seriously, watch it. It's actually pretty entertaining. It's almost as good as Team 4-Star, to be honest. But it's good. But no, Kensei kind of falls in that realm because the only times we really see him fight, we see him fight Ichigo for a little while when he's in hollow form. But that's really just to keep him at bay. You know, we see him fight Wonder Weiss, and he goes Bankai, but that's an off-screen fight, and Wonder Weiss comes back so he didn't defeat Wonder Weiss. Then we see him fight Masculine de la Masculine, the super wrestler Quincy Sternritter, and, you know, he loses to that guy to prove how strong that guy is. I mean, he's got a cool Shikai, which apparently involves energy and wind manipulation, and his Bankai is cool looking, and it's, in theory, cool. You know, the power of all his blasts are concentrated in the blades and the knuckles, so if he can turn them into brass knuckles and hit the opponent, that's cool. The problem is that, and even with his Shikai, in fact, his Shikai is more versatile than, you know, anything else. Problem is that when I stacked him up against everyone else, and that's 12 fights for each opponent, by the way, or each individual, because there's actually 13 on here. He won one fight. And that's against Komomoro. Simply because, and by the way, some of these individuals do rank higher than others. Like Komomoro is much higher on the list than Kensei, but he still lost to Kensei. That doesn't mean anything. It's the majority whole. So the question is, the only reason he won against Komomoro is because of how Komomoro's Bankai works. It's connected with him. Damage the Bankai takes, he takes, and vice versa. So all Kensei has to do is just hold on to the armor part and then just keep his fist there and just and then until he, you know, internally just destroys Komomoro. So other than that, though, he can't blitz Soifo. He doesn't have any super you know, feats in speed. I mean, he's strong, but it's not it's not like his abilities can't be countered or even tanked by strong opponents. Like Byakuya can just block his abilities. Gin can probably outmaneuver him. He shouldn't touch Rukia at all when she's using her abilities. You know, Mayuri's, you know, can just cut him with his blade and, you know, paralyze him. Tozen he's lost legitimately to Tozen. And, you know, he can't touch Yamamoto. Kenpachi can just tank his hits. So, frankly, he comes out as the weakest one of all these guys. But, you know, there's got to be a bottom boy and he's the bottom. Giggity. At number 12, though, next up, the second weakest is Soifone. Soifon is, among the captains, she's among my least favorite, but I wouldn't call her my least favorite. My least favorite probably actually falls into, well, no, actually, she probably is my least favorite captain. And not because I really hate her, because she's the least interesting one. That being said, like, individuals like Byakuya and Toshiro actually come in at, like, my number 3 and second and third least favorite, but whatever. But, I mean, yeah, she's probably among the fastest of the captains. I mean, Byakuya might be able to keep up, might be a close second, because we know Byakuya is extremely fast. But she's, I think, considered the fastest among the captains, because she's the assassination force. She's hand-to-hand wise, she's probably the strongest, and speed-wise, she's probably the fastest. And, you know, she's got a 2-step kill. The problem becomes is that, one, despite being hand-to-hand proficient, she is not physically, she's physically probably actually the weakest on this list. I mean, you look at this, and there really isn't any other women on. There's Rukia. I mean, she's probably stronger than Rukia physically because she's trained for that. But other than that, maybe she can out physically fight Yuri, but Yuri can just counter with poison and his tricks. She can't overpower Kenpachi. She can't even get close to Yamamoto. Shunsui just has too much experience on his hand to really take her out. Byakuya beats her in swordsmanship. Same with Kenpachi. Rukia is the only one who she could possibly beat, and even then, here's the thing on that is that she could theoretically 2-step kill Rukia, but if Rukia is even in her Shikai, she tries to hit her once, she's gonna freeze. She may freeze the tip of her blade a bit, and who knows what happens after that. And if she goes, and all Rukia really has to do is wait for Soifon to come in for that kill, and then go Bankai Flash Feature, and then Soifon's dead. So she honestly loses in a fight to Rukia in the long run. The only one she actually ended up beating in this scenario was Kensei, because of how as I just explained, Kensei's a melee fighter, so she has the advantage in that because of how her Shikai works. She tied with Komamura because of that filler episode where during the Regai invasion arc, because they actually did fight. He fought the Regai version of her, so that one died. And he ended up living and moving on. So technically, he won that fight, but that's the Regai version, which is even stronger. I would probably go on the limb and saying that they probably tie in that real scenario. They probably would both be on the ground, like roughly unconscious, because the Regai can only take so much damage. But other than that, I mean, the biggest issue with her is her Bankai, actually. If her Bankai wasn't just a one-shot missile, maybe she would rank higher on this list. But the problem is it's a one-shot missile. Tozen can just outmatch her senses, especially when you're a trained fighter. Your senses are like everything. And while she's probably could sense the movement, I think she'd honestly be dead beforehand. She's not a Kenpachi in the sense that she can, at least not in Kenpachi's level, where she's just got that hardened battle sense of just sensing the blade and moving out of the way for a lethal hit. Plus, she's nowhere near as tanky as someone like Kenpachi or, even Hitsugaya or Gin, or Komamura. She just can't tank those hits like the other ones can. She can take a punishment for her size, but she is the weak one among them, physically speaking, in terms of durability. So Soifon comes in number 12. Number 11 was Tozen. Now, Tozen was an interesting one to do because I knew for a fact he at least beat out Kensei. So I knew he had at least one win on there. But when I actually looked into it, who else did he beat? Well, he beats Soifon. I know he beat Soifon. After that, though, no, he didn't. He's one of the. I take that back. He did do one tie, and that tie was he did not do one tie. That was someone else. Sorry. No, he lost the majority of the fights he won against, and the reason he lost the majority of the fights is because what does he have? The Nisuke maybe overloads your senses, knocks you out. Most fighters could ignore that. I'm pretty certain because again, the only time we see him use it against Oryu, we can only assume it's because he was so low on Ryatsu that nothing. Benihiko is just a bunch of blades, and Kenpachi just tanked them. Didn't even bother blocking me, just tanked those. So any real experienced fighter could either avoid them, tank them, or block them. And then the real question is how does anyone fare up against his Bankai? Well, Kensei already lost. Soifun I think also loses. After that though, I mean it was Shunsui. Shunsui has enough abilities between his games, and even if he goes Bankai, then Tozen's screwed, because all he has to do is Tozen only has to maybe try to hit him once, and all of a sudden the blood he starts to like what? It's like first if you can hear me, first act is like you'll take the damage, and then blah blah blah. And then, Byakuya can just use Zenbone Zakura, or, Akido just blasts his way out of the dome, I'm assuming. It's a finite area, we assume. And hence why Komamura actually beats him too, because if it's a finite area, from what we can tell, his Bankai is so big, it literally just breaks his Bankai open. Kenpachi, we already know, has beaten Tozen. Gin, I think, can beat Tozen pretty easy, just, with a quick swipe of his sword, or Bankai. Yamamoto, all he has to do is use his flame, and then the flame, he can't get near Yamamoto. Rukia, she can turn into absolute zero for a time. It's a guy who just makes ice. It's pretty much Urahara, who was on this list, by the way, has so many abilities, and so many tricks up his sleeve, and so much forethought and planning ahead of time that, I don't see Tozen even getting to his Bankai with Urahara. So, and even if he does, I can assure you that Urahara, with a portable Gigai, with all of his Zanpakuto's abilities, hell, if he goes Bankai, he can actually probably restructure the Bankai itself, the dome. So it's like, Bankai is like, you think your Bankai can stop me? Well, think again. He just sees the arms, touching the dome, and all of a sudden, Urahara can see him, and he blocks, like, what? It's like, shing, and then just hits like, my Bankai's ability is to restructure anything touches. I restructured your Bankai to give me the ability to use my senses again. There you go. So Tozen, he's got a cool concept, but he just, in the long run, he just fails. In the number 10 spot, we have Komamura. Komamura, again, another example of the Worf syndrome, a strong character who gets his ass handed to him most of the time. But Komamura at least won 2 out of the fights, and tied with Soifun in 1 fight. The other 2 fights he won was against Tozen, and actually, believe it or not, I believe he could probably take on Mayuri. The reason I say he could take on Mayuri is because his just as Shikai gives him range. It gives him enough range that he can summon a giant sword to keep Mayuri at bay. Mayuri's bread and butter. Mayuri's real tactic, with at least his Zanpakuto sword with Agisogi Jizo, is to attack his opponent. If he can't hit his opponent with his sword, he's got to think of other means to do it. If he doesn't have a plan, and even if he does have a plan, as we saw with Pernida, it doesn't always work. So even if he doesn't have a plan, he's got to, if he uses his Bankai, Komamura uses his Bankai, which is far larger than Mayuri's Bankai, and just slices that guy's Bankai in half, which then it's like, oh dear, and then, gets smashed around, and then Mayuri has to give up, basically, so Komamura wins that fight. Other than that, though, I could guarantee you he loses against Kenpachi. He lost against Kensen. I already did that. Byakuya can just overwhelm him with his blades. Yamamoto, I don't think that's a contest at all. Gin could easily just, spear the Bankai, and, leave a little sliver with the DNA, or the disease, and just disintegrate the Bankai. Same he could do to Komamura himself. Rukia can just, flash freeze him and his Bankai. Kisuke would just, restructure the Bankai, or just kill Komamura outright beforehand. He's the guy who could freeze. So basically, Komamura is strong, but he's the Worf syndrome character, where he's just not that strong enough compared to everyone else. So that's Komamura. Number 9 is Mayuri. Mayuri is interesting in the sense that when he has a plan, and he has the means, and he's studied, and he's done the proper research, he is near invincible. Except when, you have a writer like Kubo who puts him against Pernida. Really, the only reason he won was because Nemu's brain, because you needed Nemu's clan, so you could eat Nemu and not dissolve and all that stuff. It's so annoying, but I actually do a decent good Cersei, Mayuri. But yeah, I mean, when he has a plan, like when he went up against Sayalza at spot number 8, he planned ahead and he completely owned him. Well, even against Pernida, his Bankai was originally designed to maybe take on Pernida to a degree, but things didn't go quite the plan. But Mary has a lot of backup plans going. Like he's like reishi shoes, they can float on the air. He's made zombies out of captains and Oran cars. He's got a lot of stuff going on, but it does take some proper planning. So even when he's got proper planning, it doesn't always go 100%. So it's a little difficult to figure out Mayuri. So when I put them against each other, and how did I make Mayuri? Mayuri honestly won 4 out of 8 fights, and in the ones he lost against, or the ones he won against more than anything else, he won against Suifune and Kensei because honestly, Suifune's he's pretty much an antithesis to Soi, especially with that like ooze ability. His poison, because of his poison, the way Zanpakuto works, getting close for them is dangerous. And then the only other 2 he actually won against was Gin. And I say that because with Gin, I mean, his Shikai is powerful, but, Mayuri can just be like, whoop, oh well, and then, flash step, attack him. And even if he does the Bankai, Mayuri might be able to counteract the poison in there if he's got the proper planning time and right plan to go around that. Even then, he can, before the poison activates, it's like, oh no, you don't. Turns to that. So technically, that's a loss, but at the same time, you got to factor in that Mayuri's also got his Bankai. So I think with the poison and everything like that, he'd be able to counteract Gin and Tozen as well, because his Bankai would just take up the entirety of the area for his Tozen's Bankai, possibly breaking out of it, or just the poison alone. But when you break it down to everyone else, Shunsui can easily just avoid the poison, with either Bushogama or, Kido, whatever. Byakuya, again, can just, use his Bankai to just, create a dome of flower puddle blades that just push outward, overwhelm Mayuri. Kenpachi, I'm almost certain, can take on Mayuri and win. Simply because of the fact that the only reason Mayuri stabbed him only to prevent him from, being destroyed from Pernida. Pernida was an antithesis to Kenpachi. That was not a good fight for Kenpachi to be in, and Mayuri knew that. Even then, Kenpachi could still move his eyes, which surprised Mayuri. And Mayuri is clearly shown a few times where, after he beat Spada 8, kind of like, the only one's fighting is that barbarian Zaraki. You should know you should never get in the middle of a fight between beasts. You'll be eaten alive. Or when he's about to maybe reprimand Ikaku, Kenpachi gets in the way, and, Mayuri clearly backs down, knowing that he shouldn't fight a captain anyway, but also because I don't want to get into a fight with this man if I don't have to. And when you talk about Kenpachi now, that he has the Shikai and a Bankai, and if we're going by the fact that after 10 years he got more control over those, he would not be someone. He even showed that he can blast the poison away with just his Ryatsu. So then you factor in Yama, who can just incinerate him. You talk about Tozen, who can use ice to just counteract most of his effects. Flash freeze him if he has to. Kisuke, the Kisuke one, that would be hilarious. Because Kisuke's got so much more versatility just in his Zanpakuto alone compared to Mayuri, that on that standpoint alone, he can take out Mayuri. Plus, he's far more well-trained in flash step and in hand-to-hand combat and swordsmanship than Mayuri is, because he was part of Squad 2. And then Rukia, I also think, just with the Flash Freeze and Sub-Zero ability, or Sub-Zero, Absolute Zero ability, that he could not, in a long-term fight, take on. And that's the thing, too. That's hilarious. Like, if he even gave up, it was like, it's useless. In this form, I can either be killed, no, can I attack? It's like, all of a sudden, Rukia's just like, she's like, what are you doing? What are you, and then she just freezes into it. I was like, yeah, no. So, I had to put Mayuri at number 9. I'm starting to reach the 20-minute mark, so I'm going to try to keep this no longer than a half hour. I really don't like going over, but sometimes I do that. At number 8, by the way, is Rukia. Rukia actually came in with roughly a 5 out of 7. She actually tied with the next one on the list, and I had to basically do the tiebreaker between them then, who wins the fight between those two. Rukia wins 5 times out of 12, loses 7 times the remainder of the time. And she honestly wins against, again, Suifune and Kensen because of how they fight. And, way Zanpakuto works. She won against Komurara the same way. She wins against Mayuri the same way. And she wins against Tozen the same way. But after that, Shunsui can easily just avoid, with a hide in a shadow. Like, if she's a Bankai, it's like, wait, where's... And then he emerges out of the shadow and just stabs her. Byakuya, I'm pretty certain Byakuya can just survive the flash freeze, just stay away. Yama that wouldn't even do anything against Yamamoto. Gin, I'm pretty certain, all he has to do is keep his distance against her Bankai, and then use his Bankai, slash her in half. Kenpachi actually feels the same way. His Ryatsu, I think, is so powerful that it actually just overpowers the flash freeze effect itself. He's like, him and Yama are the only ones on here whose Ryatsu is legitimately a weapon. So that means a lot. Kisuke, again, so much diversity. That was the word I was looking for. So much diversity and so much intelligence and, gadgets like, portable Gigai, all that stuff, that he could avoid her and just, take her out in the long run. And, so when it came down to, Rukia made it to number 8, which is impressive out of 13 individuals. Number 7, though, was Gin, who had the exact same record. Now, Gin is able to take on, in fact, every other captain here, with the exception of Komamoro, exception of Komamoro, is able to take out Soifun and Kensei. Now, that said, Gin's also able to take out Komamoro, as I said. I believe he could take out Tozen, and I believe he could take out Rukia. After that, though, again, I think Shunsui, especially if they both go into Bankai, that would screw over Gin quite a bit. Byakuya, I think, honestly, his Zenbo Zakura Kageyoshi, or just Zenbo Zakura alone, can block his Shikai and Bankai, respectively. Yama, I think, honestly, especially when he's in his Bankai, and again, if we think of these fights in the long term, they both go to Bankai, his body, because he's harder than the sun, more or less, when in his Bankai, he would probably incinerate his Zanbakuto upon contact. Kenpachi is a difficult one to say. I do think Kenpachi would win, simply because with his Bankai, he, similar to like Tozen, now he doesn't have the range Tozen does, but he has so much power and ability that he can cut from quite a distance away and cut someone as powerful and strong as Gerard Valkyrie in half with a single swipe in his Bankai, which is something that can take an opponent by surprise, especially when you don't think they have range. Whereas Kenpachi knows, fighting from the beginning with Shikai to Bankai, Kenpachi knows that Gin has range on him, but Gin doesn't realize Kenpachi would gain range in Bankai. Plus, again, power overall. Gin's not like the fastest, but he comes off as fast. He also comes off very maneuverable. He's a guy I think would also win, especially with the flash freeze ability. Mayuri wins simply because he's got enough diversity to counteract that, along with Kisuke has enough diversity to counteract that. Let's say he gets stabbed, and he does my secret long as this, and all of a sudden, because Kisuke's in his Bankai, restructures and say, then I'll kill Kamishino or kill Kamishini Yogari, and all of a sudden, nothing happens. It's like, all of a sudden he gets a stab. It's like, oh, what happens? Like, no, you gave away your trump card, man. When you said that, I used my Bankai to restructure the blade and that sliver that you left in my body, and I restructured the poison to actually give me a nice little boost. So thanks. And then Rukia, I do believe he beats Rukia. So Gin comes in at number 7. Now we're in the top 6, and I'm going to try to speed this up because I hate it when I go over time. Number 6 is Hitsugaya. Hitsugaya has enough diversity and overall strength and uniqueness that he actually won about 7 out of 5 of the fights. He beats, again, Soifun Kensei. He beats Komamura. He beats Gin. He beats Tozen because he can just freeze the area. He beats Mayuri because he can overpower any of Mayuri's abilities with simple ice. And he beats out Rukia because he also is an ice user. Rukia is kind of an ice user, but it's more about freezing and Sub-Zero and Absolute Zero, as opposed to Hitsugaya, who's more just about ice manipulation. But because he's used to the cold, he can probably take on Rukia's abilities, especially if he goes into the adult form and uses the flash freeze that he has. But he still loses against Yamamoto for obvious reasons. Hell, his Bankai evaporated the moment Yamamoto's Bankai was activated. He loses against Shunsui because of the way Shunsui's Bankai is very Zanpakuto is very unique. So it has a lot of actual answers towards a lot of individuals. Hitsugaya also lost against Kenpachi simply because Kenpachi, I think, could just sheer overpower him. Even by some miracle, if he got to his adult form, I think Kenpachi and him would both they'd either take each other, or Kenpachi would still come out with the win, simply because I don't think he'd have enough time to freeze him. But I don't think a fight between him and Kenpachi would last long enough for him to get to adult Hitsugaya. And he loses against Kisuke because Kisuke's got enough versatility and answers to with probably the ice that he could probably, blast it away with Benahime's, blade or energy and all that. So Hitsugaya comes in number 6. Number 5 came in as Byakuya. Byakuya has a solid 8 wins to 4 losses. Byakuya, we know he's a Kido master. He is a master swordsman. His Zanpakuto is very unique with the fire blades. Honestly, it makes more sense to talk about the ones at this point that they lost against than who they won against. He lost against Shunsui because Shunsui can counteract his Shikai, no problem. He's got just the same mastery of Kido as Byakuya does, but like 100 years more experience than Byakuya does. His swordsmanship is probably even far better than Byakuya's because he's a dual wielder. And then you talk about his Bankai, even if Bankai to Bankai, the minute that Byakuya's Bankai hits Shunsui, Shunsui's dead, or they might both be dead, or they're both going to take him injury. Then the disease part happens, and the flood happens, and then he just cuts off Byakuya's head. He loses against Yamamoto because his Shikai alone for Yamamoto just can take on Byakuya's Bankai, for God's sake. And again, Yamamoto has he's been around for 1,000 years, so he has a far greater knowledge of Kido and things along those lines than Byakuya does. He also lost to Kisuke because Kisuke, I think, can plan around anything that Byakuya has. And again, restructuring the blade. I restructured the blades. Now they literally just flower blades. Restructured your arm. Now you can't really hold your sword, or you can't really move your blades. A lot of stuff you can do that. And even then, his Shikai isn't diverse enough that he gets that net. I can't remember the actual name of the technique. Hits them with the blade and just blows them up, or the net. And then I'm pretty certain he loses against Kenpachi because Kenpachi's durability. Kenpachi had no hesitation of taking on Byakuya even before he had his Shikai. With his Shikai and with his Bankai, I do believe that he plus his Ryatsu as it stands, I do believe he can overpower pretty much any Zanpakuto technique Byakuya has. As we saw, he's able to blast the fire particles away, even just slash them away. Kido is arguable, but we've seen, like with Ichigo, that anyone who's just strong enough can break out of a Kido. So most binding spells I don't think are going to work on Kenpachi, generally speaking. And a lot of Hado, I'm pretty sure he can tank, seeing as he can tank a fifth Espada Niratori Zero with just his hand and just get it away. So yeah, he can tank enough, and I think he's a far more skilled swordsman than even Byakuya, just because that's what he does. No, I have to give that spot to Byakuya, and that fight to Kenpachi. Speaking of Kenpachi, we have Kenpachi at number 4. Kenpachi just came this close to shying away from getting double digits. Only the top 3 have double-digit wins. Kenpachi won 9, lost 2, and tied 1. Now, Kenpachi loses the fight against Shunsui, though I would argue that if it's quick enough, Kenpachi could win, but if it's a drawn-out fight, which it most likely would turn into, it's Shunsui who wins in the long run. Again, in terms of sheer power, I do believe Kenpachi is actually the strongest in terms of just sheer power overall. But you got to factor everything else in. Swordsmanship-wise, I think they'd actually be pretty equal to Kenpachi, even surprising Shunsui a bit. I think Shunsui and Kenpachi would more or less equal out in terms of the Shikai fight. With Nozarashi, he's got unparalleled cutting ability, but with the games taking effect, it would be a weird scenario going on. When it comes to the Bankai, though, Shunsui has to take him out quick, because the longer Kenpachi's fighting, the stronger he's going to get, but the problem is that first act in his Bankai, Kenpachi might take an arm off, and then his arm goes. So then the disease happens, but I don't think that would hinder Kenpachi too much. and then then basically it gets to the end where his head will be taken off. So yeah, honestly, Kenpachi's one of the only ones who I actually saw. No one else beat Yamamoto in an actual fight, but Kenpachi's one of the only two on this list who I think actually ties Yamamoto in a fight. Like they would both probably die. And I say that because, again, Shikai to Shikai, Yamamoto's got the advantage in terms of just sheer power, but Kenpachi with his Ryatsu could probably blow at least some of the flame away, and then with Nozarashi be able to actually throw some hits, maybe injure Yamamoto. So when they both go Bankai, now it's the power of the sun versus Nozarashi's sheer cutting power, which I think, Yamamoto maybe kills Kenpachi with a slash, but not for Kenpachi slashes and uses that distance slash. Remember how he did with Jiraiya? He was able to cut him from a distance, quite a distance away, and just cut him straight in half. I think they both actually would take each other out because he doesn't need to theoretically hit him to hurt him, which bypasses this the heat of the sun armor that he's got going on. So I think that actually bypasses each other. But that's still a draw in Kenpachi's case. The only fight that he actually lost on this one is with Kisuke Urahara. Kisuke's intelligence and diversity, and plus when Jiraiya, even if he's got more control over his Bankai in this scenario, is still kind of a blind beast in many ways. So I think Urahara can just work around Zaraki enough that it's like, okay, nope, binding, boom, restructure. It's like, nope, yeah, no, sorry, now you got arms like, how did that guy say it? Oh, a cookie. It's like, all that. So I think, yeah, he loses straight out to Shunsui and Urahara, but I think he actually would, him and Yamamoto would tie in a fight. I think they'd both go down. But anyway, now we're in the top three, and I'm really going to try to make this quick, because I'm way over time at the moment. Shunsui came in at number 3. Shunsui has a total of 10 wins, 1 tie, and 1 loss. The only one he really loses against is, what was it? I honestly think it's Kisuke, because theirs is a very unique matchup in a fight. That's actually one I might do for an actual who will win to see if I'm really right on that. But they're both intelligent. They both have years of combat experience. They both have unique abilities. So it's a matter of who's going to edge out who with what, with all their abilities. And the thing is that I actually think Urahara wins simply because by the end of it, when they're both in Bankai, I think that when it gets to the throat cutting thing, Urahara that comes back in is like, how did you? It's like, whoop, a portable Gigai. Oh, there you go. And, just kill. I think that's it. Unlike Shunsui, who only had so many backup plans, hiding in showers and whatnot, Urahara has literally thousands of moves ahead from so many different scenarios. So I think Urahara actually does beat Shunsui in that regard. I do believe he is also the only other one I think ties with Yamamoto. He's simply because of his first Bankai ability. His first Bankai ability alone, and we got to go under the assumption that these guys don't necessarily know each other's abilities. So, Yamamoto just burns him, maybe even, tries to use his Bankai, blows him away, and then he gets blown. I think, wait, what? Oh, crap. So, yeah, they would tie in that scenario. Otherwise, if we go into the second act and beyond, then I'd say maybe Yamamoto wins, but he's probably going to try to kill him outright, and then maybe Shunsui would let him. But yeah, Shunsui, though, he is probably one of the oldest and strongest captains left in the Soul Society. There's a reason he's the head of the Squad 1 division. Shunsui is also probably one of my favorite captains in the series. Probably somewhere around the lines of Urahara, Shunsui, and Kenpachi fall into somewhere in my top 3, somewhere in that. But number 2 is Yamamoto. Yamamoto came in with a solid 10 wins and 2 ties. He tied Shunsui, he tied Kenpachi. And he beats out anyone. There's no one else who can honestly beat him in the Soul Society. Simply for sheer power and sheer ability and his fire. That's the thing. Like with Byakuya and stuff, he's got immense, he could flood you with a tsunami of petals, but you can flood it with a searing flame tornado, and those get kind of, hell, maybe even fusing them together or something like that. He was, for most of the series, the strongest Soul Reaper around. So it's really hard to say how he goes against, how how he takes on anyone else and not win. Again, the only scenarios where I saw him even losing, and not full on losing, but fighting to a draw loss would be Kenpachi and Shunsui, and that's only because of the circumstances of their abilities. The only one who honestly that he won, that he beat, who is the only one who's higher on here, is Urahara. Urahara only lost one fight, and that is to Yamamoto. Urahara I rank as the strongest Soul Reaper captain in general in the Bleach series as it stands, unless we get more information later on about the rest of their abilities and stuff like that. Urahara, I believe, is the overall strongest captain when you compare him to the rest of the captains, because because of the way how smart he is, because of how much backup plans he has, because of the versatility, the diversity of his abilities, how many backup plans, his inventions and all that he has on call. Plus, he's a master of hand-to-hand combat, or master of hand-to-hand combat, master flash step user, master swordsman, master of Kido. He runs the gamut. The only one he really lost to was Yamamoto, because just of the nature of Yamamoto's Zanpakuto and Bankai alone, and because Yamamoto has a little bit more experience than he does. Other than that, though, he beats Shunsui simply because of because of backup plans, portable Gigai. He beats Soifone because I'm pretty certain he's beaten Soifone already before. Shunsui or Kensen he beat no problem. Byakuya he beats no problem. Komamura he beats no effort at all. Gin's a little tricky, but I'm pretty sure he can beat him. Tozen, I'm pretty sure no problem he could beat him. Kenpachi would definitely put up a great fight, but he'd be able to beat Kenpachi, I'm almost certain. Hitsugaya, he wouldn't have any problem with Hitsugaya. I'm sorry, Mayuri, that would be the fun one, but I don't see him losing to Mayuri. And Rukia, he just got to keep his distance, and he know to keep his distance because he's smart that way. So yeah, again, real quick, because I'm nearly at the 40-minute mark. I hate when I go over like this, but yeah. Again, from weakest to strongest, it's Kensei is the weakest, then Soifone, Tozen, Komamura, Mayuri, Rukia. Going into strongest to 7th, Gin, Hitsugaya. Top 5 is Byakuya, Kenpachi, Shunsui, Yamamoto, and Kisuke Urahara. So for any of you who actually feel like watching this video, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Tomorrow I'll have box office. If I feel like doing another video, I'll do another video, but we'll wait for the time being. Anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry this video went so long, but I hope you enjoyed.